the way that you're describing how you're doing things doesn't sound financially driven, right? It sounds experiential driven. And I love that. What drives you, or what's your goal with running this venue?
I'll start with this. Some venues obviously can't do business with this model. It doesn't financially work. It works for us. We've definitely increased the price over time, but tried to keep it reasonable and tried to really put the focus on the time that we give you is more relaxing.
You're listening to the Venue RX podcast.
What is up, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX. And on this show today, we are going to be talking to one of the venue owners who are coming on this series that we're doing called the Venue Owner Series. And I'm really, really excited about this because it's an awesome way to hear from venue owners, people who have actually purchased a venue or maybe they've built a venue and they've really gone through the whole process of what it takes to not only create a successful venue, but run it day in and day out. And so we're talking to these owners during this series, and I'm really, really thrilled to be joined by Amelia from Emerson Fields. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited about this because, of course, on this channel, we're passionate about documenting and sharing best practices for building, owning, operating, managing, all of the things for really incredible wedding venues. And your venue is gorgeous online.
Thank you.
From everything I've seen, really, really, excited to kind of unpack a little bit with you what it took to get it to where it is today and kind of the process you went through. And, I hope that, as there are other people in the industry or maybe even people who want to get in the industry, they're able to listen to your story and, get some inspiration and some insight what it's like.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
Let's jump in. All right. So my first question, how did you get into this industry as a whole? Like the origin story, we obviously have to go back.
Right. We have 3 daughters, and when they were growing up, I was kind of stay-at-home mom, did some side jobs, did some jobs in advertising, in real estate. But as they grew up, I became a photographer, self-taught. But then that escalated into wedding photography. So I did that for about a decade as, kind of part-time, just a side gig. And as I photographed venues all over the country, I photographed in the Carolinas and Florida and Arizona and Missouri and, all over. And I was just like, they haven't thought about how this is going to look in a photo. And that's where it was. Then I knew how I wanted a venue to look in a photo, how it would reflect light, all of those things. So we have a construction company. So of course I go to my husband, I'm like, I have a plan. I think this will work. This will be the perfect venue. And no venue is perfect, but it was better than what I had seen. And I just thought, I've given thought to how this is going to photograph. And as awesome as the wedding day is, in the end, you're left with the photographs, the memories. So those are really important.
So what was the duration of time between you being a photographer, having this vision for, the venue that really, really looked incredible in photos, to you actually going to your husband and saying, hey, I want to make this a reality? Like, what was that process? Like, how long did that take?
I photographed a wedding in September of 2016.
Okay.
And he went with me to that wedding because we knew the bride's parents and different things. It was about an hour and a half from our home. And the whole way home, I'm sure I was annoying, but I was like, no, you can build it. We can do it. I know how to, all the things. That was September of 2016. And we had our business plan in place by February of 2017. Funding broke ground in May 15th of 2017.
So can we talk
2018.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Let's talk about what that process was like. So you put a business plan together. You had a bit of industry experience already, so you kind of knew what you were looking for, had that vision.
Right.
Getting to the funding point, how did you put that together? Was it loans, SBA? Was it, what was your
Right.
process like for getting funding?
So we didn't do an SBA loan. We did take out a loan. We were constructing it obviously with our own company. So, we were experienced in, things like ADA compliancy, just those types of things. So it was easy to come up with the design, the floor plan, schematics, all of that. The business plan itself, I reached out to Truman State University, a fairly local university, and they have, kind of a business, trying to think what they're actually called,
Like an
but
accelerator program or something?
sort of like a small business, they help
Oh,
you.
like an incubator.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
help
yeah,
you kind of, come up with these business plans. So, yeah, we worked with them. That was a free service through the university. So that was awesome. They helped us put together the business plan. They helped us to do some of the market research. Of course, I had already done some of the market research too, but yeah, it was a pretty, I don't want to say simple, but a pretty painless process because we had their help and because we had some of the experience.
That's huge. So what I'm hearing, some lessons there for anyone who's like listening is like, find someone who knows
Yes.
that specific piece. And it sounds like, folks over there at the university, whether they were students or professors or the incubator, whatever the format was there, they probably had a bit more know-how. And so you just were like, hey, what do we do? And then they knew it and made it happen.
Right. And we work through our local chamber, and those type of things too, to kind of get to the right person for this. But all in all, any community has those type of services, and they can be a resource definitely to anybody starting out in business. But for us, that was huge. We'd never put together a business plan per se. We had a business, but having a plan with the venue and the marketing and just researching that. I physically called all of the county seats in like 20 counties and asked like, how many, marriage licenses have you, given out in last year, the previous year, and did all of those calculations, took a small percentage of that and kind of said to the bank, like, if we can even capture this small percent, and draw from this, say, 8-9 county area, we're going to have, enough business to make this viable. So
Totally. Okay. So, and I was going to ask about that, how you did your due diligence, if you will, right? And the market research.
Right.
So it sounds like you asked about the marriage licenses to kind of get a rough idea. Did you already feel like you were pretty confident knowing what was popular, what was not because of your work in photography as well?
Yeah, I mean, I knew what was popular right then. This is 2016, 2017. At least in the Midwest, very rustic, mason jars with, pretty wildflowers, look like they're handpicked, that type of thing was very popular. So I didn't want to build that because I knew the industry, we're going to come out of that. We're going to go into some other new trend. But more importantly, I wanted to build a venue that could withstand those trends. We're not super specific style wise that it has to be, a certain style of wedding. We're kind of a blank canvas venue, I would say, but we've built some character into it, which also helps. But mainly knowing what's trendy right now may not always be trendy. So you kind of have to forecast a little bit.
And think into the future. So at that point, you're building something. And how did you go about this with your husband? I mean, you kind of had to have him. Do you have architects on your team too? Did you have to, put drawings together? What was that process like?
Right. We drew it up together. We've designed and built houses, so we have, that kind of software. Yeah, we basically just kind of sat down together and talked about it. Of course, from my standpoint, I'm drawing, this beautiful window, and I'm drawing a balcony area and all these things. And my husband looks at that and, that's going to be great. It needs to sit, this way on the property because of where the sun rises and where the sun sets. And we're going to put a lake here because the sun sets over here. But I hadn't drawn any closets. in the venue. So any storage basically at all.
Storage. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, storage. So he's like, where are we going to put 300 chairs when we're not using them, and things like that. So we work pretty well together as a team, but yeah, we've been married 33 years. So we built a lot of things together, and just looking at, his thinking of, just logistics and how people are flowing through the venue and where we should put doors. And then kind of my mindset of, yeah, but how's that going to look in a photograph?
How's the look? Yeah, totally. And you're so right. I love that you called that out, because there is, 6 hours or 8 hours or 12 hours, regardless of how long you have the venue for. And that's your party time for your friends. But, you enjoy the photos, your family enjoys the photos, your relatives, everyone enjoys the photos for years and years and years to come. And so getting that space that really captures that moment, that's really impactful.
Yeah.
So then you go to build, you get your, your business plan, you get your funding, you breaking ground to when the venue was in a condition where you could start selling it. So let's say breaking ground to your first contract that you signed. Right. What was that length of time?
Well, it was, I think, a month, maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I started an Instagram account, Facebook account the day we broke ground.
Wow. Okay.
We're also planning 2 of our daughters' weddings the same year we broke ground on this. So
were you planning on doing them at the venue?
No.
Oh, other places.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had kind of already had that in motion. And so none of our daughters got married here, but in planning their weddings, I'm like, hey, we need to think about this and this, and just different things. So yeah, we broke ground in May, and I think we did our first contract like in June.
Wow.
We brought people out, and these are people, this is small town, area, Midwest. They know of us, they know of our company, they're familiar with us. So those first, 6 or 8 couples that signed a contract to say, yes, I'm going to have my wedding here, when there's a slab of concrete and nothing else, really took a leap of faith, on us, but also they were, either people we knew directly or in a roundabout way knew about us, knew, it's going to be a finished product and it's going to look well, but you have to sell that. You have to sell your vision. So, yeah.
Did you, what was the time frame that you had approximated from, groundbreaking to being able to execute a wedding on property?
We thought about a year.
Okay.
My husband worked another full-time job. He was a Missouri highway patrolman, and he was still working that job full-time.
And you had the contracting and the construction company?
Yes.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are hustlers.
We're not boring. Let's put it that way. So we thought, we can do this in a year. We'd never built anything this large before. We've built homes, that kind of thing, but this was like building 4 houses, at one time, as far as sourcing materials and all of that. And
how large is the property? I know you said the reception area can go up to 300 guests, but what's the total size of the property?
It's the size of the main venue is over 9,600 square feet.
Okay.
So two levels. Then we have a pavilion that's kind of an open air type of ceremony area. And we sit on 34 acres. So, yeah. So anyway, we were kind of getting close to, finishing, and we had a relative actually reach out to us, and she really wanted to get married the first weekend in May. This is 2018. We kind of planned for June. June was going to be our first wedding. But we hustled and we got it ready. So we hosted actually 2 weddings in May of 2018. So,
and that was a year, like almost a straight year after. That's incredible.
Yeah. When we opened, we had 30 couples that had, signed rental agreements, booked the venue, ready to go. So that's huge. I mean, just as a general tip for people that are kind of getting into this, you have to start that marketing beforehand. You kind of need that revenue coming in as you're going through the construction process.
Absolutely. So did you, you mentioned that you were in a smaller town or smaller city. What was the permitting process like for you? Is it fairly straightforward? I mean, we're here in California where it's, like a year, 2 years to get your
Permits,
major use permit. Yeah. But
Yeah.
what was it like for you?
That it was all pretty local. And since we have, other resources and other people that we know kind of in that field, we were already familiar with some of that process. Building a commercial building was a little bit different, but we didn't have to have special permits for that where we're located. So
That's huge.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's huge. It's a huge relief, but it is also there's a low barrier to entry.
And you literally read my mind. That's where I was going to next. So as you start this venue, 30 contracts, when you're there starting out right away, which is incredible. It's that momentum that you need, definitely. But then did you find after that there were other venues that opened up in your area who maybe saw that you were being successful or not really?
A couple did. And it's such a large investment. I don't think I wasn't scared that was going to happen. It did happen to some degree, but they built something completely different than what we did. I'm just kind of the mindset. I feel like there's enough business, no matter what the business is, really, there's enough business to go around, and people are really going to seek out the person that they know and like and learn to trust. And that's who they're going to, select. And sometimes it's style of the venue too. So I guess that was something that was in our favor, is that they built something completely different.
Got it. That's very cool. And it sounds like even in your calculations, you made it based off of a very, very small percentage.
Yes.
So I love that you made that comment about, there's enough business to go around, because I do think in certain markets, whether there's a low barrier to entry or high barrier to entry, it's really easy as a venue owner to kind of be looking around and say, be extremely competitive. Right.
Sure.
But at the same time, you made a wonderful point, which is, the couple who really is excited about booking at your venues, probably just not the couple for those other venues, and vice versa.
Right. And that's been the fun part for me, just kind of with advertising and some marketing, and my background is getting to know and realize, I guess, who is the couple that is, most attracted to our venue or to us, and figuring that out. I don't really subscribe to there's an ideal client or, something like that. There's definitely maybe an avatar or a, projected demographic that you think will work well with you and at your venue. But that's also changed a little bit over time. So.
Well, and I was going there next. How have you felt that's changed? You're kind of like avatar, because I know it sounds like you're very intentional. You built it with the end in mind, but then did you see the clientele that you were serving? Were they surprising to you, or did you see them merge or kind of evolve as you built the venue?
At first, it didn't seem surprising. I would say, those first 30 contracts, let's say, for 30 couples, didn't seem surprising. Kind of like, hey, this is who I thought this would be for. They're fairly local. We are in a rural area. The nearest town is 3 miles north of us, and it's a town of less than 6,000 people. So when I did my math, I took that county and about the 7 or 8 counties around it when I did that calculation. Then I considered an area which would be like Columbia, Missouri. It's an hour south of us. Kansas City, St. Louis, they're both about 2.5 hours each distance. We're kind of smack in the middle. I thought, we might, there may be some coming from that far eventually, but our main target market, if you will, would be this local area, which was true at first. And then I think over progression of several things, different styled shoots that we put on, the images that we put out, the pricing that we went to, kind of flipped that on its head. And now it's the opposite. Now we attract more couples from an hour or so, 2 hours away, even out of state, and we attract less couples fairly locally. So.
I'd love to come back to that, but I have a couple of questions kind of about some nuts and bolts
Okay.
of things about your venue. So so you get started, but you've never owned a venue before. So what was it like going through the process of deciding like insurance? Should you require people to carry insurance? What about vendors and vendor lists? What about, what were some of those things, kind of an initial package that you put together? And then maybe even some reflections that you, like looking back, if you did it again, right, that you'd say,
Right.
do these things first.
I definitely, before we broke ground, we called an insurance agent about insurance on the venue because I already knew I wanted a lake on the property. I already knew I wanted to allow couples the freedom to choose who they wanted to work with. If they want a taco truck, or if they want prime rib, or if they want lobster, they get to choose all of those things. So I wanted to be an open venue, but that also creates more liability, so to speak. So anyway, called the insurance kind of first thing before breaking ground, before doing business plans, just to get an idea, like, what does this cost to insure?
This was even before the business plan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So you knew way before where you were at. Sure. Okay.
Well,
that's cool.
Yeah. Like you said, I had a little bit of an edge, maybe just being in the industry, but, just having a friend that's an insurance agent, and we're like, hey, we're thinking about doing this, but, here's the thing, and just give us a ballpark idea. But the way Missouri law is written, the bride and groom carry a lot of liability themselves. So I knew we wanted to help them protect, them from that liability. So all of our couples get a special event liability insurance policy.
Just for the day of?
Yeah. And actually it's for the weekend because they're here for the weekend. Okay. And yeah, just really kind of making connections. We go to church with some caterers. They're very, friends of ours, really known really well locally. We brought them out here when we're building, like, what does the kitchen need to look like? How big does the space need to be? Those types of things. So that was very helpful. But yeah, we let vendors kind of work with any vendors. We do have the right of refusal, if need be. Yeah. That's only ever happened one time. And we try to just be proactive in working with vendors and contacting them before they come, giving them a heads up about our policies, where to park, those types of things if they're new. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So what do you include in your venue rental? Like when someone comes to get married at Emerson Fields, what are they, for kind of like a base package, what are they getting?
So we only have one package.
Ooh, simplicity, I love it. The best, yeah.
It's simple. Okay, it's simple. We really don't even call it a package. They rent the venue for 48 hours. They have it from Friday at noon to Sunday at noon. They get the tables, chairs, white table linens included. We have cocktail tables, the specialty cake table, guest book, all that type of stuff. We have a full kitchen and a full built-in bar, ice machine, dressing suites for both people, on site. So all of that it's just kind of all inclusive. There's 5 different areas that they can choose to be married, outside or inside. And it's all the same cost.
I was just going to ask, okay, so you don't itemize it. Oh, you want to get married over here, it's $1,000. Yeah. That's kind of a hotel model, and I know I've actually had some owners that we've worked with in our venue management company that want to itemize the pricing of the spaces. But what went into your decision on how to price like that? Because that does sound really intuitive. Right. What went into that decision?
Well, having 3 daughters that are married.
Okay.
Researching and helping them, just knowing with brides, different things. A lot of places included decor. I didn't want to do that because I don't want every wedding to look the same. I want it to look like, what the couple wants it to be. So yeah, just kind of been in, and around weddings enough to know I just wanted to keep it simple. And for us as well, we have enough, going on in our lives. I don't really want to have to track down if they used the arbor and that's, an extra $75, or they used, a cake table and that's going to be this amount, or if they used, 20 tablecloths versus 25, it's built in. So that's kind of our model. It's simple. It's not, I definitely see the flip side of that, of itemizing, and it is probably more profitable. that way as well. I didn't have the bandwidth to support that in the beginning. And once we started it out that way, it just feels right and works for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I was just gonna ask, how has that evolved, or has it evolved over the years? Because it sounds like you changed some things on pricing, you did some style shoots and did some things that kind of changed your clientele as well. Did you find that any changes were necessary, or are you still built off of the base of everything is included kind of in this one package?
Right. We really started off from the beginning, all included, it's all in one package. I did start off in the very beginning, probably the first maybe 10 or 12 couples. We offered it to them just for a day. And then, we thought, well, we might book something else on a Friday, they want Saturday. And I just saw very quickly into this that like, if somebody else comes along later that wanted that full weekend, but I've rented just Friday, it just kind of felt messier to me. And I knew in the wedding industry, it just feels like sometimes we're trying to get them in, get them out, and shuffle them in, shuffle them out. And I personally didn't like that feeling for, our own children or other brides that I'd photographed their weddings. I really just wanted to take away the element of there's a limited amount of time that you have to pull this off. And once we've done that, it kind of morphed into and grew into itself that we tend to attract a bride that wants a relaxed weekend. I said this to our website designer when she asked, explain who's going to be attracted to your venue. I said, okay. So she's in grad school probably, and she's getting married, and she would elope. She would go to like Cancun, just for the fun of it. And because it would be beautiful, but her grandma can't go with her to Cancun. So she's going to have her wedding wherever grandma can be. And so that's kind of what it's been. That's kind of who I guess is attracted to our venue and to us.
Yeah. One thing that I am always curious about in that decision, because you're essentially limiting your inventory, right? I mean,
right.
A weekend model versus, and then add in seasonality and some different things like that. So when you made that decision and when you were doing the numbers, was this a decision that you made, when you were putting your business plan together, that it was going to be a weekend model, or did you reverse into that as you were thinking more about the client experience?
Right. We kind of reverted into that after the plan was put together. And kind of, I guess, to that end, we're working on just starting to work on altering the business plan, like rewriting it. We're 4.5 years in. We've noticed those initial changes, and had some change in the pricing. But next year, late next year, sometime next year, we will have lodging that we're going to add into that equation. And when we have that lodging component, I just feel like it's going to be kind of a different thing of its own. So I want a business plan that kind of projects with the lodging. Understood.
So then reversing into that, like you said, with the pricing, you're limiting your inventory, right? So then the conversation around, and it doesn't sound like you have a ton of venues that are right near you, right?
No, yeah, probably 40, 45 miles away, in that vicinity is the closest.
So then how did you build the pricing? Like, how did you, if you don't mind sharing, what is the cost for that base package?
So right now the package, 48 hours, you have it for the 3-day weekend, is anywhere from 8.5 to 11.5.
Depending on the time of year.
It's okay.
No. Okay. No, I went there too quick.
Close. Right. That's okay. That's, again, I wanted to just simplify that.
Yeah.
It means as much to people getting married in April as it does in May or June, so I just, across the board, we don't have seasonal pricing. We have 40 weekends available a year. We take 12 weekends off. So the inventory is limited. But for us, the pricing scales as they have more guests. So we book them at a conservative amount, hey, I'm going to have 200. Okay. But your wedding's in 16 months from now. So let's book you at 100. and you make payments, towards that. We get that done. Closer to the wedding, we meet with them 2 or 3 weeks before the wedding. And at that meeting, that's when we have that discussion, like, okay, now I need a number, how many people are actually coming, and they pay an extra payment depending on their guest count.
Understood. So then that really allows you to give them a lot of freedom and flexibility around not only just getting the venue locked in, which is a huge decision,
Right.
But then also it allows them to really accurately reflect what their guest count is going to be.
Right.
Coming closer. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Not to worry about that, too much in the beginning. But for us, the reason we scale it that way is it's more expensive for us to have a wedding here for 300 people than it is for 100. You use 3 times the amount of paper towels, for instance. It's going to be, more expensive. I've also found that doing it that way kind of gives them a cap on that. If we're working within this budget, we can't just invite everyone we know, and so they kind of pay more attention to those numbers. Our sweet spot is around 150. We love having weddings for around 150 people because that gives the couple a lot of flexibility in how we're going to set it up. Hey, we want to try the dance floor over here instead of over here. Great. If you max out the capacity in the venue, you reduce the creativeness, so to speak, that you can do different things, different setups. So, so we're kind of pricing it that way to kind of, try to steer towards that 150 guest counts, kind of where we like.
The sweet spot. That makes so much sense. So how do you handle the booking window, I guess? Because you mentioned 16 months. How far in the future do you let clients book?
We will book up to 24 months.
Okay.
Usually 14 to 16 is kind of our average. That, we don't tend to book people to, much closer than say 6 or 8 months, because our calendar books up pretty far in advance because of the, limited inventory. And we also just kind of let the chips fall where they may with the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
We have some weekends off, that we hold back, at Christmas or Easter or something like that. But occasionally we'll do a January wedding. Occasionally we'll have the whole month off, and, that's fine too. So we just kind of let those 40 weddings fall as, what dates the client wants.
Totally. Amelia, I have a question. It wasn't on my mental list of questions that I'm going for, but I'm just really curious about this. So what drives you, or what's your goal with running this venue? And I'm asking that, I'll give you a little bit of context, kind of like what's in my mind. Yeah. The way that you're describing how you're doing things doesn't sound financially driven.
Right.
Right. It sounds experiential driven. And I love that. That's why my wife and I got into this industry. Because again, we literally were doing a staffing company and working at venues, and it was like people showed up at 10 and it was like, all right, get out. And then you turn, it's crazy. People just become like cattle that you're trying to herd out.
Exactly. Yes.
9:50, everything was cool. You're like customer service, house lights go on. You're like, get the heck out. And I hated that.
Yeah.
So what's behind that? And so I'm asking for that reason. And then also, as someone is listening to this and maybe they want to, get into the venue business because they've heard that, you can make a lot of money in it. How do you juxtapose the money and then the experience?
Right. And I think a lot of it, some venues, I'll start with this. Some venues obviously can't do business with this model. It doesn't financially work for them, depending on the investment that they have, or the loan, or the investors, whatever. It works for us, and it's something we've definitely increased the price. We've definitely increased the price over time, but tried to keep it reasonable, and tried to really put the focus on. I don't want to trade dollars for time, but try to put the focus on the time that we give you is more relaxing. It's you are allowed to have the rehearsal dinner here. Oftentimes brides say like Friday night was so nice because we just got to sit around and visit, and like, my aunt's in from out of town and haven't seen this bridesmaid for, 5 years. And the wedding day is just, it's a busy day. It goes by fast. And also I know, having 3 daughters, the investment that people make in a wedding in one single day to rush them in and usher them out, really quickly, it just doesn't feel, I just don't like the feel of that. That's not really the way the wedding should go. But it's the way the industry has kind of done this with venues. And obviously it's more profitable, to turn it and have another wedding. And not to say we don't ever do that. We had a couple weeks ago, we did a Saturday wedding, and then we had a couple that lives in Hawaii, and they came back here because her family's in Central Missouri, and they did a Monday wedding. It was 10-10-22, so they thought that was fun. And and we gave them 48 hours as well. So they had from Sunday afternoon to Tuesday morning, so it works. But I really that's kind of our heart, is just giving people time together with their loved ones and their people, and like celebrating that wedding day together.
How do you, if you were talking to someone, giving someone advice, and, they might say, Amelia, I have that heart too, but I also, the way that we built our business plan or whatever, I don't think that we can afford, if we have 40, even if someone has 50, inventory dates, I don't know that we can cut it like that. We might have to go just financially.
Sure.
What are some things, because has that ever been a consideration? Have you evaluated it based on that, or it was built to do 30 to 50?
Yeah, it's really built for that. And we didn't want our lifestyle really to change and until we hire, staff or full-time event manager or something like that for the venue. We're here, and we don't want to be all consumed with this as a business. We love it. We enjoy it. We're here every weekend, with the couple. But for another venue owner, I have a venue owner friend in Kansas City area, and she reached out and she's like, explain this to me. How does this work? It sounds lovely, And so we talked about it, and I think she's trying it this next year, to kind of, switch to an all weekend rental. But we talked about, like, you could still do corporate things during the week. You've then got Sunday through Friday to do something else. You can also have, like you say, a Monday wedding. We've had instances where we've had a Sunday evening wedding, and we give them, they don't have a full 48 hours. So we've given them a break on the price. We've gotten a cleaning company in here in between the weddings to help us, flip it.
Yeah.
And it works, but it's not something I want to do every weekend. We could, but at this point, that's not something, not really what we want to do.
Understood. You mentioned team members. Do you have team members, other people, or is it you and your husband? What's your team look like? Who helps?
Yeah, our team looks like Mrs. Holder and Mr. Holder. My husband, Steve. Steve and I are kind of the venue, manager type thing. We do require our couples to have at least a coordinator for their wedding. So they're kind of helping with the people aspect of it. We're dealing with setting the chairs up, moving the furniture, there's a problem with the AC or whatever it is. We're here for that. And then we have a virtual assistant. She's part-time. And she's our middle daughter. So that's nice. She does some of the social media, virtual assistant. And then we have a contract labor, like cleaning company, that comes in professionally and cleans it for us each week after the event. So pretty lean staff for now, which we knew we kind of wanted in post-COVID, and, even going through all of that. I'm glad that we have that, but I also know long-term, I won't be able to be here 40 weekends a year, as you get older. At some point, things we'll have to bring on, managers or staff. And I'm excited about that. But right now with the staffing shortage, I'm thankful that we don't have to worry about that.
And that's been, countrywide. It's just incredible. I mean, and we're having that here. I think for certain positions, we struggle a little bit more than others, but definitely, I mean, wages, just there's so much that goes into that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So I have another question about kind of the experience piece. Because it really sounds like, you're focused on that. You do a great job. What are some special touches or things that you do to make the couples stay with you or the time with you, that much more special, specifically from Emerson Fields to
Right.
them? Do you do, booking gifts? Do you do anniversary gifts? Do you do anything like that kind of, chocolates on the pillow, if you will, right? Like anything like that?
We're not quite chocolates on the pillow. Yes.
Yeah. Well, hey, when the lodging opens up, right?
I know.
There you
That's a
go.
good idea. So when they book with us, we communicate a lot. That is, I feel like, a gift in itself. There's anywhere from 13 to 16, I think, emails that are corresponded to when their wedding is. Hey, don't forget about this. If you want to know what a guest book person, how that can help you, read this blog about that. So we have those reminders and type things going out to them. So we're super communicative with them. They can call or email anytime, any questions, that type of thing. The weekend of the wedding, we usually are here to greet them when they arrive. We just try to start off with the feeling of like, this is yours for the weekend. Treat it as such. It is you're coming and going as you please. There's obviously some parameters, Saturday night, we have to close it down by 11:30, that type of stuff. But people really kind of take ownership then of their event, and they really like having that time. There's no stress level increase when they walk in the door. Usually the stress level, decreases, which is good.
Because they're getting settled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's settled. Then we give them a T-shirt. I have a personalized T-shirt. It's
I see it a little bit in your.
I have
there
this.
you go.
Yeah,
And you
this
got
is
the
my
blazer.
T-shirt.
I
Yep.
love it.
There says like Hubs and Wifey, and it has our logo on the back. So we give them that, and then at Christmas, their first Christmas, we give them a personalized ornament from their wedding year, and then we kind of just have emails that go out even after they're married. Like 100 days out from their wedding. Congratulations, you made it 100 days being married. And things like that. So yeah, it's mainly for us is the communication and kind of the feeling, the experience when they're here.
Totally. Absolutely. I have two final questions that I'm excited to ask. And this has been so fun just getting to know you and the venue a little bit more. And we're going to be linking everything, by the way, for your venue in the description on YouTube. And then also it'll be in the description area for anyone who's listening on podcast. So everyone can check out your venue and see what you're doing. But the two questions I have are, what's your favorite thing about owning your venue? And then what's the worst thing about owning the venue? So I know it's probably a mixed bag, and depending on the weekend, the couple, whatever it is, right? But what are some things that come to mind as far as like your favorite parts of this whole experience, and then the most challenging parts?
My favorite part is meeting all of their people and kind of hearing that story come together, whether it's through just hearing what the father says to the bride right before they walk down the aisle, because I'm behind the scenes, or in a toast or something like that, meeting, aunts and uncles and family from all over the places, and just seeing them feel at home here and relaxed. I like that. I think hospitality is probably, one of my love languages or something, but that brings me a lot of joy seeing that. I feel like probably one of the downsides of it is just things like logistics, like trash and, cleaning and we are tied to this at this point in our life. Anyway, we're tied to this for the weekend. Mm-hmm. So when our grandkids get a little older, and they're playing baseball, that, that's probably when I'm going to start looking for an event manager, but, that your time, it does, it takes up your time. So, yeah.
So, and that makes so much sense. And just based on everything that you've told me, it is so cool to hear your story and how much the experience piece matters and what you're doing there. I think that is something that is, I don't want to say lost in the industry, but I definitely think that so many people do get involved because of the financial piece. And I know that when that's not necessarily just the sole driver, and when there is the experience piece there, the couples really have an incredible experience. And they, and it's like this huge, like you said, expense. It's this huge time commitment. That's, everything that goes into it. So that's really lovely to hear. But Amelia, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Yeah, this was fun. It's fun. And I enjoy your show because I get to hear from other venue owners and others, just in the industry and learn, things all the time from it. So I appreciate you asking some of the questions and giving me the chance to, to visit with people about our venue. We don't, I feel like everyone does business, individual to them, and it's personalized to them. But I do feel like you're saying, there's kind of a norm overall with the industry. And I don't know. I wanted to have the courage to do something that wasn't the norm. So
absolutely. Well, and you've done incredible. I'm so thankful for you coming on the show. I wanted to ask you one last thing. I just realized, where can people find you? If people are just listening in the car or whatever, and they want to check you out later, are we going to Instagram, website, email, all the things? Let me know.
Where we live at Instagram Lane, I joke, but no, Instagram is probably where we're at. It's Emerson Fields Venue. Our website is emersonfields.com, and Facebook is Emerson Fields Venue as well. So we're pretty easy to find there. We put out a lot of content on Instagram. So that's super helpful for our couples. And I feel like that's usually kind of top of funnel for us. Instagram, we have a download, like a wedding planning checklist. And, so they kind of get to know us there and then go to the website.
Well, and is that kind of the main promotion that you do, or do you use sites like Wedding Wire, The Knot, or Google Ads, Facebook ads, things like that?
Not really. We did Wedding Wire or The Knot the first year. And because of our location, kind of we're in between Kansas City and St. Louis, that's the only two markets that they, quantify in Missouri. So we really didn't, that really wasn't a fit for us. We don't do a lot of paid advertising, more word of mouth. We have a huge sign out by the highway. People pull in our lane, that sign is, paid for itself time and again. And then, like I say, just organic reach, through Instagram and Pinterest are probably our two biggest things. I know Sarah does SEO.
Yeah, Sarah Dunn.
Lindsay Roberts, yes. So, anyway, I've learned a lot from those ladies and the SEO on the website. Google has just this year become our top. I asked that on the contact form, when people inquire, that's usually the top generator for us, is where people come from, Google and then Instagram.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, Amelia, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And I'm excited for everyone to come check out your website, check out your Instagram, check out the venue if you're local there. Thanks again for coming on. Sure. And thanks for everyone joining us. If you are joining us for the first time, appreciate your time. We have lots of episodes just like this and more in the Venue Owner series coming up, and we will see you all in the next episode.